Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Police Accountability Show. Remember, when you watch the Police Accountability Show, you agree to being offended, as well as nothing that you see on the Police Accountability Show constitutes legal advice in any way, shape, or form. Please reach out to your local lawyer for your local laws. And welcome, everyone. Welcome to Police Accountability. I'm your host, Chad Christophers, and we're here today to talk about, can the police handle major organized crime groups? And I do believe the answer is maybe. I do believe that they need to be part of the investigation into these crime groups, and crime groups operating locally, I could see it. But what about major international crime syndicates like the Hells Angels, the Triads, the Italian mafias, right? That literally exist. Some of them exist in hundreds of countries. If you look at some of the Asian mafias, literally there's almost no country they're not active in. And what is the little local police officer in, one jurisdiction in one police area going to do against major international crime? Is the officer going to be too scared to take a complaint against the Triads? Good question. I don't hear of them making many busts in the major international realm. And that's where it comes down to, can they handle it? I don't think so. They don't have the resources to fight a lot of these major international organizations. I do believe they have the ability to arrest them, to effect arrest, be part of the arresting process. But at the end of the day, and we do see busts of the police bust the Hells Angels, the police bust, and they do bust divisions. But I do believe that we need to be more federal, because they are going after crime groups, sure, but all of them, all the time, are they even equipped to handle them? And no, these organized crime groups, some of these big international crime groups, vastly outnumber the police officers in any given area. They have greater resources, greater money at disposal, and their guys aren't worried about breaking the law, right? Like our officers and our citizens are. So that's where there's a big disconnect. And I do believe that we need to have the police not as much handle these major international groups, and they should be handling more small local guys. And the reason being is because they don't have the resources to combat these people, right? They simply don't. One officer or a small local police department does not have the ability to fight the Triads, the Hells Angels, or any other major international group that's out there, because they're just simply not equipped. Okay, maybe there's enough officers in major cities. They do operate there. They do make busts in areas of international crime groups. But can they really handle it? I think that's open to debate. I don't think so. I believe that we need to have more federal and more international. And that's why I've used this image already, but I have Interpol's sign up here. Because why? Because unfortunately, Interpol itself is actually not an organization. It is actually made up. So in every country, there would be regular police officers that would also be designated Interpol. That's how Interpol actually works. I know, because I've tried to report things to them myself that the local police are too scared of to deal with, and it turns out that they're just local police officers. So, having them go up against crime, to an extent, I'm sure they can, or I'm sure they believe they can. But the bottom line is, these big international crime groups, I believe, are too big for a lot of these officers. But tell me what you think. Tell me, do you believe that the police stand a real chance against these guys with their huge budgets and bigger numbers? Because I don't. And I think we do need to have specialized divisions that can be more readily available to handle these issues and understand them as well. Because expecting a frontline officer to understand some of the complex crimes and scams of organized crime can be perplexing, right? These officers can't be jacks of all trade. They can't know and understand every single scam. And we have people from all over the world coming into our country and running scams that are common scams where they come from, but are not common scams here. You'll see that a lot if you do the research on the migrant gangs in the United States, where the locals just simply aren't equipped to handle these international crime groups. And why? Because they're not familiar with their scams. They're not familiar with how they operate. And until they do understand how they operate, how their scams work, there's very little they can do about them. And that's where our law enforcement in many areas is actually falling behind and can't stop it. You can, and that's why you see so many migrants coming to other places, because scams that are easily busted, let's say in Italy, there's nothing against them here. There is no legislation to stop them. So for these gangs, a lot of them, it's like Christmas. They can run these scams that they were good at in their home countries here, and there's no one to stop them because our law enforcement doesn't know. And that's where Interpol needs to be a bigger organization or a different organization, or there needs to be a federal police department that helps us deal with these international crime groups when they move into new areas. I just watched something about that in New York, where the migrant gangs are there and they're taking over the streets because it's hard to stop them. They're not familiar with their scams. They're not familiar with it. So the police don't know how to investigate them yet. And that's where having specialized police officers that we're able to contact, let's say from Italy, let's say from where these migrants are based, South America, Brazil, right? Mexico, right? The cartels from Mexico. They have all sorts of scams down there that we've never seen up here. And if they come up here and start running them, we're not prepared for them. We're not prepared to stop them. So that's where having a specialist organization that is international, that can see, because these international organizations don't know border. They don't know race. They don't know the difference between races, right? They don't care. The border is just an obstacle to them. When to us, it's our differentiating force between our cultures, our people, our countries, our value systems. The gangsters have the same value systems. They're going to cross into a different area where their scams are new, and they're going to clean up. I've literally read articles where they describe moving to another area where they're not prepared for your scam as Christmas, because you can run your scam all day long and the police don't even know how to approach it, don't know how to investigate it, and don't know how to stop you from doing it. So do we need another international police organization, such as like NATO but police, Interpol but not local police dudes, but actual specialized units, specialized to deal with international organized crime? I do. I think it's important. Law enforcement is important. It helps keep our society together. But tell me what you think. Tell me in the comments, are the local police able to actually handle these international crime groups and their huge pool of resources? Or are we literally telling them to just take little tiny bites out of a great big puzzle that's not really solving anything or stopping these crime groups at the end of the day? Tell me in the comments what you think. I'm Chad Christophers for Police Accountability. Don't work too hard.